I've never been the kind of person to believe in curses or bad omens. But after what happened last Halloween, I don't think I can ever look at a piece of candy the same way again. It started in the most normal way possible, just me, my wife Megan, and our 8-year-old daughter, Chloe, spending our first Halloween in a new neighborhood. We'd moved to Maplewood a few months earlier. It was one of those quiet suburban places with cul-de-sacs, trimmed lawns, and the kind of houses where people still wave to each other. That October had the perfect kind of chill. You could smell leaves and bonfire smoke every evening. Chloe was excited out of her mind. She'd chosen to be a vampire princess, and she'd been talking about trick-or-treating for weeks. Megan had spent an entire afternoon sewing a little cape for her. I remember thinking that everything felt good. Stable. It was the kind of peace you don't appreciate until it's gone. The first strange thing happened on Halloween night. We went door to door for about an hour. Chloe's bucket was getting heavy, and Megan kept joking that she'd need to check every piece to make sure the candy tax was paid, her way of sneaking a few chocolates after bedtime. But then we reached this one house on the corner of Birch Lane, old, with peeling paint and a sagging porch. There weren't any decorations, no lights, nothing. I was about to tell Chloe to skip it when the porch light flicked on. An old man stepped out. Thin, gray hair, a flannel shirt tucked into loose jeans. He looked harmless, the kind of retired guy who might yell at kids for stepping on his lawn but still sneak them candy when no one's looking. Trick or treat. Chloe yelled, her little fangs flashing. The old man smiled, but it was odd. His eyes didn't quite match the smile. He dropped something into her bucket, a small, clear bag tied with orange ribbon. I glanced inside. It wasn't normal candy. It looked like little handmade caramels, wrapped in wax paper. "Thank you," Megan said politely. The old man nodded once, slowly, and said something I almost didn't catch. "Enjoy the sweetness while it lasts." Before I could process it, the porch light went off again. Megan laughed nervously. "Well, that was weird." I shrugged it off. Maybe he was just lonely, trying to sound mysterious for Halloween. When we got home, Chloe poured her candy on the table. The mountain of sugar made her squeal with excitement. Megan started sorting through it, checking for open wrappers or weird brands, you know, the usual parent routine. Then she picked up the little bag from that house. "Ha," she said. "Homemade candy." It was 5 little square caramels, perfectly wrapped. "They look fine," I said. "We'll just toss them." "You never eat stuff like that from strangers." Megan hesitated. "Maybe we should just ask around tomorrow. See if other kids got the same thing." We bagged them separately and put them aside. That night, after Chloe went to bed, Megan and I sat on the couch watching some cheesy slasher movie. Around midnight, I heard a faint sound, something like soft tapping. "Do you hear that?" I asked. Megan muted the TV. Tap tap tap. It was coming from the front porch. I got up, thinking maybe it was a branch or a raccoon. But when I opened the door, no one was there. Just the faint sound of wind rustling the leaves. Then I looked down. On the porch was a small paper bag. The same kind of bag the old man had used for the caramels. The next morning, we opened it. Inside was a single caramel, unwrapped this time. Just sitting there, sticky, with a faint smell of burnt sugar. There was also a note. The handwriting was shaky, like someone's hand had trembled the whole time. It said, "Don't let her eat it again." I felt a chill crawl up my neck. "What the hell does that mean?" Megan whispered. I didn't have an answer. We threw the bag away and agreed not to mention it to Chloe. Probably some sick prank. Maybe the old guy was losing it. But that day, Megan went to talk to a few neighbors. Most said they'd never even seen the old man before. And then Mrs. Larkin, the woman who lived 2 houses down, said something that stuck with me. That old house. It's been empty for years. No one's lived there since the Wards moved out after their daughter died. Megan came home pale as a sheet. I tried to reason it out. Maybe the house had been sold recently, and Mrs. Larkin just didn't know yet. But when I checked the county property site later that night, the owner's name was listed as Robert Ward. The same family she'd mentioned. And the file hadn't been updated since 2004. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard Chloe coughing. I went to check on her, and the moment I opened her door, something smelled wrong. It was that burnt sugar smell again. Chloe was sitting up, eyes half open, whispering something. "Daddy, it's too sweet." "What's too sweet, honey?" She blinked, confused, then said, "The candy. It makes my tummy hurt." My blood went cold. We had thrown away the homemade ones. I checked her bucket the next morning anyway, and one of the caramels was gone. The next few days were a blur of confusion and fear. Chloe started running a fever. Megan took her to urgent care, but the doctor said it was a viral infection, nothing unusual for this time of year. But every night, she'd wake up crying, saying the same thing. "She keeps saying I have to finish them. The sweet ones." We asked who she was, but Chloe didn't know. "It's just a voice," she said. Like a whisper when I close my eyes. By the fifth night, Megan was losing it. We were both exhausted. That's when I decided to go back to that house. It was late, maybe 11 p.m. The porch light was off again. I parked down the street and walked over with a flashlight. The windows were dark. I stepped up onto the porch, the wood creaked beneath my feet. When I shone the light through the window, I froze. Inside, the furniture was covered in sheets, and everything was coated in dust. No one had been living there for a long time. But in the middle of the living room floor, there was a small table. On it sat a glass jar full of those same caramels. My heart was pounding as I stepped back, my beam shaking. I wanted to leave, but then I heard something faint, like a child humming. It was coming from upstairs. I can't explain why I didn't just run. Curiosity? Fear? I don't know. I walked inside. The air was cold and stale, and that smell, burnt sugar, was everywhere. The humming stopped when I reached the staircase. Then a floorboard creaked above me. Someone was up there. I took one step at a time, every sound echoing through the house. When I reached the top, there were 3 doors. The one at the end was slightly open, a soft glow flickering from inside. I pushed it open and almost dropped the flashlight. On the wall were dozens of photos, all of them of little girls, around Chloe's age. Some were old and yellowed, others were printed more recently. And taped to the center of the wall was a newspaper clipping. Maplewood girl found dead after eating tainted candy, Halloween 2004. The girl in the picture looked exactly like Chloe. Same dark hair. Same smile. My stomach dropped. Then I heard whispering behind me. "Don't let her eat it again." I turned, no one was there. Just the sound of the wind through the broken window. I bolted. When I got home, Megan was waiting, pacing the living room. I tried to explain, but the words came out in gasps. She didn't believe me, not completely, until I showed her the photo I'd snapped on my phone. Her hands shook as she scrolled through it. "What if," she began, voice trembling. "What if she already did eat one?" The thought tore through me like ice. The next day, Chloe's fever got worse. She said she could taste the sweetness even when she hadn't eaten anything. We took her to the hospital, but every test came back normal. It didn't make sense. Then, that night, while Megan dozed off in the chair beside her hospital bed, Chloe opened her eyes and looked straight at me. Her voice was different, lower, slower. She was just hungry, Daddy. She didn't mean to hurt anyone. My breath caught. "Who, Chloe? Who's hungry? She said her name is Lily. My knees went weak. That was the name from the newspaper article, the girl who died in 2004. The doctor said her fever broke suddenly around 3 a.m. She woke up asking for water, perfectly fine. But I wasn't fine. I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. When we got home the next day, I drove back to that house again. But this time, it wasn't there. I mean, it was, but it was burned down. Blackened ruins, surrounded by a temporary fence. A man from the fire department said it had caught fire the previous night. Old wiring, he said. Surprised it didn't go sooner. I didn't tell him I'd been inside it just hours before. A few weeks passed. Chloe recovered fully, though she didn't remember much. Now and then, she'd mention the sweet girl who helped her feel better when she was sick. Megan and I didn't press it. But one morning, as I packed her lunch, I found something at the bottom of her backpack. A single caramel. Perfectly wrapped in wax paper. My first instinct was to panic, but when I picked it up, it didn't smell burnt. Just like normal candy. There was a note tied to it. It said, "Thank you for letting me go." I don't know what really happened. Maybe it was all in my head, stress, paranoia, grief I didn't know I had. Or maybe that house really was haunted by something that couldn't rest until someone listened. All I know is this, sometimes, the past lingers in the smallest things. A smell. A song. A piece of candy was wrapped too neatly. And every Halloween since then, I make sure we hand out only store-bought chocolates, sealed tight. But I still keep that one caramel in my desk drawer. Not because I'm scared of it. But because it reminds me that even the sweetest things can carry the darkest secrets, and that sometimes, the only way to break a curse is to face it. And every year, when the air turns cold and the leaves start to fall, I swear I can still smell a hint of burnt sugar drifting through the window. Just faintly. Like a memory. Or maybe, a thank you. And that was real Halloween candy nightmares you won't forget. Some stories stay with you long after the lights go out, not because of what you saw, but because of what you felt. The quiet dread that maybe, it wasn't just a story. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, don't forget to leave a like, share it with a friend who loves a good scare, and subscribe for more true-style horror stories every week. Sleep well tonight, and maybe check your candy before you do. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe out there.